It may be the most advanced phone that the company has ever built, but does the HTC One have what it takes to stand up to competitors like Samsung's Galaxy S4? Find out in our review. Hey everybody, I'm Chris Wook. HTC seems to be using a lot of new terms and buzzwords to describe the One. Blink feed, Zoe, ultra pixels, boom sound. That's a lot of fancy words, but are the features actually, good? Well, let's find out, starting with the specs. The HTC One runs a 1.7 GHz quad-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 600 processor and has a 4.7-inch 1080p display with a pixel density of 468 pixels per inch. It has 2 gigs of RAM and 32 gigs of internal storage. The rear-facing camera is 4 megapixels, more on that later, and the front-facing camera is 2.1 megapixels. Powering it all is a 2,300 mAh battery. For some time now, HTC devices have generally been known for excellent build quality, and that is certainly the case here. The aluminum body and Gorilla Glass screen lend the One a solid feel, and the phone feels rugged in general, though time will tell on that one. While it all boils down to taste, the design seems to be a culmination of what HTC has been working towards over the course of various phones, combining elements from earlier One-branded phones and the Droid DNA. It's hard to communicate in video form, but the HTC One just has a great feel, aside from the somewhat awkward placement of the power button. I was initially skeptical about HTC's hyped boom sound, but the HTC One has the best speakers I've ever heard in a phone, and putting them on the front does make a difference. Again, it's basically impossible to tell unless you see the phone for yourself, but it's really impressive how big this phone can sound. Simply put, the HTC One's display is gorgeous, and the HD resolution and super high pixel density are just the start. The colors are incredibly vivid and black levels have excellent depth. It's difficult to find a bad angle to view the screen from. Now that isn't to say that the screen is notably better than some screens from the competition or other HTC devices, but it's hard to imagine a screen looking much better, and the high-res and 4.7-inch screen size leave it looking razor sharp. Simply from the specs alone, I was expecting great performance from the HTC One, and I wasn't disappointed. Starting with benchmarks, I ran Antutu 3 times and averaged the score, ending up with a very nice final score of 24,258. Next up was Epic Citadel. The Snapdragon 600 and Adreno 320 GPU were put to work here, and we ended up with an average frame rate of 56.7 frames per second in high quality mode, and 57.9 frames per second in high performance mode. This is pretty impressive considering the 1080p resolution. Moving into real-world use, I tried out Real Racing 3, which consistently performed very smoothly without a single hiccup. As you might expect, standard apps launched and ran very quickly. The HTC One runs Android 4.1.2 Jelly Bean and the new HTC Sense 5. In the past, Sense has had both its fans and its foes, and though it's more minimalist in design this time around, Sense 5 will probably be even more divisive, mostly due to some of its new features like Blink Feed. If you haven't heard, Blink Feed is HTC's new replacement for the standard home screen, which pulls in news and information from a variety of sources while tying into your various social media accounts if you wish. Pick the categories you're interested in, sign into your accounts, and Blink Feed does the rest. Is this useful? Well, that depends on you. I don't see myself using Blink Feed often, but with the popularity of apps like Flipboard, I can see this feature being very popular with some people. HTC Sense has generally been toned down a little, which should be less controversial, and a few other small touches like supporting folders right within the app drawer are incredibly useful for being such relatively minor changes. A few utilities and tools are included with little in the way of bloatware, but that's on a review unit. With a unit that carriers have gotten their hands on, you can probably expect that to change. You might notice I left out another big Sense 5 feature, HTC Zoe. We'll get to that, but first, let's talk about the camera. Ultra pixels. First, let's start with the bad. The initial batch of test devices that HTC sent out had a problem that caused subpar results with the One's much hyped new camera. I received an over-the-air update before I began testing, so my results weren't affected by this problem. One of HTC's main points about its new camera is that these ultra pixels can take in more light, and they are right about that. Low light performance is among the best I've seen in a smartphone camera. Most of the rest of the time, while the camera is good, the results aren't really anything amazing. It can take a good photo, don't get me wrong, but it's not mind-blowingly awesome. 1080p video capture is definitely sharp and clean looking, though it's in the same boat. Again, it's not mind-blowing. HTC has packed in a ton of features though, like HDR and panoramic sweep for still photos, and HDR video and variable speed capture and playback. Then, of course, we have Zoe. Zoe does a few things, but its main feature is that when you use the camera in Zoe mode, it takes short videos and multiple photos all at the same time. Even better, it constantly runs a buffer so that it actually captures a full second before you hit the shutter button, which is great for capturing moments you might otherwise have missed. After you've shot your photos, videos, or Zoes, you can take advantage of a new feature that puts together short highlight videos, which uses location and date information to figure out which clips and images to use. I can't tell you if you're going to be using this all the time, but it was actually kind of fun to play around with at the very least. The 2,300 mAh battery in the HTC One could be bigger, and we've definitely seen phones with better battery life. While this isn't the strongest aspect of the One, considering everything it's powering, the battery life wasn't bad. We ran a battery test in Antutu Tester and got a score of 472, with capacity down to 18% after just around 6 hours. Heavy testing saw a charge last just over 5 hours. Actual use, though, fared much better, with the phone easily lasting the full day without needing a charge. Long story short, the HTC One is the best device the company's released in a long time. Now, you may not love everything about it. Blink feed in particular is somewhat polarizing, but in general, there's little to hate. The build quality and feel are solid, performance is blazing fast, and Sense 5 is the best iteration of Sense to date. Not only does the HTC One stand a decent chance of turning the company around, but it's our last best hope for peace. Oh wait, that was Babylon 5. Anyway, if you want to know more, we have a written companion to this article at AndroidAuthority.com. You can find the link in the description. We always have new videos coming out, so if you want to stay caught up, make sure to subscribe to our channel. I'm Chris Wook for Android Authority, and as always, thank you for watching.